Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at my offensive line grades for preseason week 2 against the Commanders. As you can see, the overall offensive line grade is higher than last week, and that doesn't seem to be a popular opinion. Getting to a single number grade for an offensive lineman, it's not a scientific process. As we can see with the discussion over the Liam Ikenberg play that has been circling around for the past day or so, his grade on that play, it's going to vary greatly from one person analyzing it to another, depending on how they see that play. My grades reward consistency, so they can be skewed in a negative fashion when a player has limited overall snaps and one or two of them result in a negative grade. You'll see that in the grades today because the starters on Saturday only had 11 snaps. So don't get too worried about the low grades that you'll see for some of these players. For some of them, it was their first preseason action, and it was limited snaps with maybe one or two mistakes or what I graded as negative plays. The flip side of that would be that my grades don't require a player to be flashy. I'm not looking for, offensive linemen who are pancaking defenders and stuff like that. I want guys who just do their job. So if they do their job consistently from play to play, then one bad play that gets highlighted won't ruin the grade that I give. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get started with this week's grades. As a quick reminder, the order that the players are displayed on this graphic are going to be the order that they came into the game. And the order that we're going to review the individual players are going to start from the lowest graded players to the highest graded players. Before we get into the players that were graded, we had one did not qualify, and that was Sean Harlow, who only had 5 snaps that were graded. The cutoff that I try to use is 10 snaps. So the lowest graded player was Rob Jones. And Rob Jones played 11 snaps, had 10 snaps that I graded, and 3 of those were graded at a 0.5. So that's something where he, did his job partially, but did not do enough to earn full credit for it. As far as film review for Rob Jones, the 3 plays that I only gave him half credit have been reviewed already, and if you're following the right people on Twitter, you'll be able to see different analysis on those plays. I wanted to share this one as an example of a play where I didn't even grade Rob Jones for it. And if you look at him as the left guard pulling to the right, it doesn't look like he does his job here. But the reason that he doesn't do his job is because the defensive tackle that Austin Jackson is trying to block down ends up intentionally falling to one knee and basically grabbing Rob Jones, preventing him from getting to that kick out block. So on the first viewing, it may look as though Rob Jones just does not do a good job of kicking out that defensive end. But when you watch it over and over again, you can see that the reason that he wasn't able to kick out that defensive end is because the defensive tackle essentially tackled him. Our next graded player is going to be Liam Ikenberg at center, coming in at a 5.91. He played 11 snaps. He had 3 that were marked as half credit, similar to Rob Jones. His grade's a little higher because he was graded on all 11 snaps. The 3 that were marked as half credit are going to be the play that's been floating around where it appears that Liam Ikenberg is just tossed aside by the nose tackle. The following play, which was a 4th down where they converted, I only gave him half credit on that one as well because he really didn't do a good job of moving that nose tackle. While he did get a body on him, it's not an ideal scenario where he's just kind of faced up to him, giving him a two-way go. And then the 3rd play is the one we're going to take a look at with the film review. Okay, so this play here is also being shared on Twitter, and the post that I saw had called this a version of counter, and I could see that. Julian Hill comes in a short motion here. Durham Smythe comes around as the lead blocker. so I could see where this would be looked at as counter solid. The more that I look at it, it looks a lot like duo to me. And what we have is a combination block between Ikenberg and Cotton on this defensive tackle. And they're going to be climbing to seal this linebacker or defensive back on the backside here. And what you'll see that we get is that they do a good job getting hip to hip on the combination block, working up here, but then Ikenberg's a little late sliding off, and that allows that defender to get back into the play. So not going to say that Ikenberg did not do his job on here, but at the same time, he did not finish his job by sliding off to this defensive back and preventing him from getting back into the play. All right, so our next graded player is going to be Lester Cotton, who had a identical overall grade to Liam Ikenberg, but he got there a little differently. He had a play where he was marked with half credit, but he also had a play where he was marked as a 0. All right, here's the play where I marked Lester Cotton as a 0. So what we have here is play action using a long trap concept. And what you want to see out of this is that Lester Cotton is pulling to the left and kicking out the first defender that he sees. As you can see here, that defensive end slants inside hard, and Lester Cotton does not do a good job of locating him. That defensive end gets underneath him, and Tua gets the ball out quickly. But had he not done that, then this defensive end would have essentially had a free run at Tua. So this would be an example of a play that maybe didn't get caught during the game live, but it's still a play that I'm grading as a 0 for Lester Cotton. All right, moving along, Austin Jackson comes in at a 7.27. He also played 11 snaps, and this is a good example of how limited snaps can have a large effect on the range of your grade. So Liam Ikenberg had 3 partial credits, and he's got a 5.91. Austin Jackson had 2 partial credits, and he's a 7.27. So one of those partial credits would be the play from earlier with Rob Jones. Maybe you say that he doesn't deserve half credit for that because there wasn't a whole lot that he could do there, right? But if he's a little quicker off the ball, maybe he at least gets enough of that defensive tackle that lets Rob Jones get out to the kick-out block. And then this is the other play that I have for Austin Jackson as half credit, and this was the 4th down conversion. And again, you can make an argument that he should have gotten full credit on this, but in my opinion, this is a really tough block. He gets a little bit of help from Cotton, and he gets decent position off of Cotton's help, and I'd like to see a little more vertical movement from him here. But even though this defensive tackle is able to surf down the line and, kind of impact the play, Jackson still does a good job of staying connected and getting some late movement there. So I do give him half credit on this play. All right, our next player coming in at 7.55, which was still below the average for the line this week, is Andrew Meyer. I thought he had a okay day. There was also some plays where he showed some issues. Doesn't change my thoughts on him. I still think that he is a good find, is an undrafted free agent center. Still not somebody that I see on the 53. So the first play we're going to look at on the film review for Meyer is going to be a crack toss to the left. And you can see that Meyer is trying to climb the linebacker, number 57. And this is something that we got used to Connor Williams being able to do. And 57 does a really good job of playing this. And he's able to scrape over the top and doesn't make the tackle, but is the main reason that this play isn't a success. You can see that Meyer takes a decent angle, but just kind of lacks the athleticism to finish that block the way that a Connor Williams or an Aaron Brewer is able to do. So for this play, I gave him half credit. And then he did have two plays in this game where he was marked with a 0, and this was one of them. You can see that this is a half slide to the right, and Meyer does not do a good job of blocking the defensive tackle that's crossing his face. Next player at a 7.63 is Chason Hines and his 19 graded snaps at right guard. Overall, he had a pretty good day, and we'll get to some of his left guard tape as well. But as a right guard, he had one negative snap and one half credit snap. This, of course, was the negative graded snap, and this was just Hines being late, reacting to the twist up front, ends up reaching out. I guess in the big picture prevented White from just getting crushed, but still got called for a holding penalty here, and definitely a 0 graded play. Next on our grades is going to be Matt Jones playing at left guard. I thought he had a pretty solid day overall, and as you can see, his grade comes in right around the average of what the grades were for this game. He didn't have any negative snaps. He had 4 that I marked him as half credit for. So this is one of the plays that I marked him as half credit for. We have Matt Jones as the left guard here, number 62. This is a duo to the left, and on this one, I just felt like he didn't give Patrick Paul enough help to create movement on number 91 before climbing to that linebacker. Ideally, in a duo play, you'd like to see those two players sticking on that double team a little longer and basically driving that defensive tackle vertical a little bit and carrying him into that linebacker. No huge concern here. I just think it's a young player just being a little too eager to get to the next level on a combo block. All right, and another half credit one here. We're going to get a crack toss to the left, and I kind of went back and forth on this one because, again, Matt Jones is here at left guard, number 62, and he's just trying to get a little piece of that defensive tackle to allow Andrew Meyer to get to him. And if you look closely, you can see that defensive tackle reaching out and grabbing inside of Matt Jones' shoulder pads, which is a penalty but doesn't get called very often. But as a result, you can see that Jones is not able to get to the outside of that backer, and had other stuff not gone wrong on that play, number 57 could have been in a good position to impact that play more than he did. Just another scenario where Jones needs to grow a little bit and understand that that is going to be what the tackle is doing, and get that extension earlier on that play so that it's either more visible by the refs or more difficult for that defensive tackle to get inside of his shoulder pads. All right, next play we're going to look at is Patrick Paul, who by my grades had a 8.47, which was above the average grade for the lineman in this game. I know a lot of people seem to feel like he did worse in this game. I didn't see it the same way. I had him graded with across 49 snaps, 3 plays where I gave him half credit, and 1 play where I gave him a 0. And for the rest of the day, I felt like he did his job, adequately, right? And that's what I said from the beginning, that my grades reward consistency. And when you hear an offensive lineman's name less, that's usually a good thing. So consistency is what I would like to get out of our offensive line. All right, so here's the play that I did have Paul marked as a 0. And he did not do a great job here, right? He sets a little too far to the outside, gives up the inside to the defender. On the flip side of that, this is a quick developing play. And that's a lot of what the Dolphins offense is. And the other thing that you'll see on this play is that outside of number 4, the rest of those routes are all on the left side of this play. So if this was not necessarily a quick developing play, by Paul forcing that defender to the inside, well, not really forcing, but not giving him a free run at the quarterback from the inside, this is an example where if it's Tua as the quarterback, he still has the ability to step to the left escape that and still make a play out of this. So I did mark this as a 0 for Paul, but I'm not sounding any alarm saying that I have any different feeling on him this week than what I did last week. Nobody expected him to come in and be a perfect prospect. We see this from NFL tackles across the league week to week. So if this was his worst play of the day, then I still feel like this was a good week for him. Our next grade is Kendall Lamb, coming in at an 8.63 at left tackle, and he was graded on all 11 snaps. He only had one play graded as a half percentage, and we're going to take a look at that one. Okay, so admittedly, this is getting really nitpicky. This is the third down where they did not convert. On this play, I felt like Lamb was a little slow getting across the face of the defender. This is the play where Robert Jones helps Kendall Lamb before climbing to the linebacker. And what I want you to look at here is Kendall Lamb's right foot. So everybody should be stepping to the right side. But what you'll see out of Lamb here is that there is a double step, right? So he opens up and then takes another step. And that is very minor in the grand scheme of things, but when you're talking about short yardage situations where there's a small margin of error and you can't be late to your spot, something as small as that can be the difference between converting and not converting. All right, just got a few players left now. So next on the list is going to be Jack Driscoll, coming in an 8.8, and he had a quietly good game. So he had 25 snaps that were graded. He only had 2 plays that were graded as a half percent. All right, so this was one of the plays where I gave Driscoll half credit. And the other play is very similar. It was just to the right, and it still kind of highlights my main concern with Driscoll, which is his ability to create power in a phone booth, basically. And what you can see here is that he does a good job getting his head across, getting to the front side of number 72, but then he's not able to use the power to create vertical movement here. And that defensive tackle from the backside is able to shed that block and get back into the play. And like I said, the other one that I marked as a half credit was a outside zone to the right, but it was a similar issue. But I still like Driscoll, right? Still see him as a very good option to back up multiple positions across the offensive line. He's just not doing much for me as a starter, but as somebody that can come in and be relatively consistent if needed for a short period, I definitely like him as an addition to this offensive line. All right, next on the list is going to be Ryan Haynes, and he came in at a 9.41 this week. He had a good day overall. I don't think you've really heard his name anywhere across people talking about the offensive line, which was definitely different than week 1. He played a total of 51 snaps that were graded, and through the entire game, I only had 2 snaps where I had him marked with a half percent. And this was one of those 2 plays. This is a play action long trap to the right, and Ryan Haynes is blocking the defensive tackle. And you can see that the defensive tackle is able to shed that block and is able to get pressure on the quarterback. This isn't a designed screen play. That was an outlet pass. Good job of Skylar Thompson of just recognizing the pressure and just getting it to the open player. But this is, Ryan Haynes did not get embarrassed off the snap, so I'm not going to mark him down as a 0 and not getting any credit for this play. But he's not going to get credit for a completed pass and a gain either. All right, so that brings us to our last player, and that's going to be Chason Hines, playing left guard, who in the 16 snaps that he played had a clean slate. So he came in at a 10.00. But this is where context is important. Looking over the log that I have in front of me, looks like there were only 3 run plays, and only one of those run plays were to his side. So with him in the game, they definitely seem to protect him and not ask him to do some of the things that we, have highlighted in this video where the other guys have had problems. So that's not to say that, Hines is pushing anybody for a starting job, but they didn't ask him to do a lot in this game, and yet he still, he did what he was asked. But if he was asked to do more, I'm not sure that we would see a clean slate for him. And so this was a play that we actually did just look at, and we looked at it for Jack Driscoll before. But so Chason Hines has the exact same type of block as what Driscoll has, and we can see on the left side of what we'd really like to see out of Driscoll on this block, where Chason Hines does a good job of getting his head across that defensive tackle, and then once he has that position, creating that vertical movement that creates some space for the running back. All right, so I know we hit on a lot of negative plays in this video, and part of that is that we are in the preseason, so we are looking at a lot more players than we will during the regular season. I'll try to highlight some more positive plays during the regular season, but preseason is about improving, and that's kind of what I wanted to share with this video, was showing examples of where most of these players can continue to show improvement and grow as offensive linemen in this system. As always, I encourage you to leave a comment below on this video. I encourage you to spread this video. Let's keep, expand the conversation on offensive linemen. You can find me on Twitter as well, at OLCoachSmith63, same as the YouTube handle. And you can see on there we have lots of back and forth as far as individual plays and just discussing assignments and having a good time. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll talk again next week.